I want to introduce Yannick Kiggen. He's been wonderful. He came yesterday and got a tour of Peter's Garden and Fong's and Renee's. And then we had a workshop today. I think everybody there had a good time. And he's been quite a delight. He's been making the tour. He started in the LA area and worked with a couple clubs there, went down to San Diego, came to us, and then he's going to Todd's in Denver tomorrow. Actually, no, he's going to San Mateo first.
Yes, and then
to Todd's in a couple of days. So he's been a busy guy. But Yannick is a Belgian professional, bonsai professional who's been passionate about bonsai since the age of 10. He started young. He started with formal lessons a couple of years after that. And in 2011, he founded Yama Bonsai. Is that how you say it? Yama Bonsai Studio. He's on Instagram. I assume you're on Facebook as well.
Also, yeah.
I just followed him on Instagram to promote bonsai, sharing his knowledge and skills with both beginners and advanced students who are passionate about these beautiful trees. Tonight's a really special night because Yannick is going to be styling a beautiful California juniper from Jason Butler's collection. And the club was, they were kind enough to allow the club to buy it. And some lucky person tonight is going to win this in the raffle. So buy a lot of tickets. It's well worth it. So he's going to be styling this tree tonight and also explaining what he's doing on the whiteboard and as well as while he's doing it.
I want to thank you all for inviting me for this, giving this demonstration. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope I will do this tree justice. I want to discuss a little bit about my history and how I developed my bonsai teachings. And I also want to teach a little bit that there are different schools about bonsai and that there actually is no right or wrong as long as the technique is done properly. And I want to show it also with some examples. So I will first teach a little bit about the schools they had in Japan in the past and how they developed. And then I'm going to talk about which front we are going to use and why. So in Japan, they had a bubble time, and that meant that they had a lot of money, they had a lot of time, and they wanted to take nature closer to them. So if they would find a rock in nature, as they found the rock in nature, they wanted to put that rock also close to their homes. Or if they saw a tree, they wanted to make a copy of that tree, but in miniature version, and to show it as a very old, beautiful tree. So they actually started with no rules, and it were very elegant, beautiful trees with very elegant, beautiful movement. You know the Japanese squalls they have with the beautiful bunjing trees or literati trees? So actually, you can go here. Sorry. So most of those trees had like very beautiful, interesting, elegant movement. They don't had a big trunk and stuff like that. They had very beautiful cascading branches like that, more or less, okay? But I will show it in a much simpler way a little bit. So they started with a linear classical school. And I'm going to show it as a formal upright tree. So that means it was a very small, very tender, thin trunk, like this, more or less, okay? And the foliage clouds or pads, they were quite high. They were very defined, and they were very small. And the foliage clouds started quite high as well, as you can see. So like a real bunjing kind of tree, more or less, okay? This was a linear classical school. Afterwards, they came together and did some philosophy about it. And they did something, what you can see that Mogen Stemberger, does everybody know Mogen Stemberger? Does with a lot of trees. So it's called the volume classical school. And the volume classical school was a very big, small trunk with very big foliage clouds. Like this. And they also had back branches but you couldn't really see them, so it looked like a triangular shape. What would the dominant thing be of this tree? Yeah, it's the base, and volume was the most important thing with this. So everything was very wide and very big, okay? And you didn't really see the trunk that much because the trunk got hidden in the foliage, so you only saw this part. After that, they philosophized again, and they started the neoclassical school, and that actually started from the war because American people came during the war to Japan, and they wanted to do or practice bonsai as well, or that's what they always teach me. So they wanted to have rules, and they want to have guidelines to make bonsai as well because they were very interested in this culture. And they started to use the linear classical school and the volume classical school, and they made it in the rules that they were back then. So what did they do? They made bonsai out of 3/3. So if we have more or less like this, okay? So the trunk started here, and the trunk was a little bigger and not as small as the first one, but also not as big as the other one. And does everybody know what Tashagari means? Tashagari? No? No one? Okay. Tashagari is the part of your base until your first branch. And the rule or the guideline was in your first section or 1/3 of the tree, you need to see the first part of your first branch and the trunk and the root base. So here, your first foliage cloud started as well, okay? Then at 2/3, would the trunk be completely visible or not? No. Some parts were hidden and some parts were visible. So if you would have had a tree with interesting movement, you could place a picture frame around that beautiful movement to complement that movement as well. Okay. So we go up. Then we have 3/3. Would that part be completely visible or hidden? Hidden, yes. So normally your apex would be here, and that would be more or less completely hidden, not yes? Then there came a guy called Masahiko Kimura. Yes, of course. So this is neoclassical school, okay? So exists out of 3/3. Tashigari, Tashigari. This is not completely hidden, but some things are, or most important things are visible, and this is more or less completely hidden, okay? And then there came something like what I like to call the contemporary bonsai school. And his name is Masahiko Kimura. Okay? And he did the contemporary school. And what did he say? What did he do? He did some special things, but he said the rules are there as guidelines, but you can break those rules. So if you have a very interesting Yamadori with a very interesting trunk line, and you have a very beautiful first branch with a lot of movement and character, but it's in the inside corner, would you remove it? No. Why wouldn't you remove it? Because it's special and it makes the tree more beautiful. So he said you can break the rules, but you need to follow the rules as a guideline, okay? So that's how the schools develop more or less in Japan. And even after that, many more bonsai masters in Japan changed their styling as how they think a bonsai should look like, even in America, even in Europe, everywhere actually, okay? And as long as the technique is done properly, there's no wrong or there's no right, in my opinion, okay? It's about the story you want to tell about the tree.
I just wanted to confirm, is this the fellow that is Ryan Neal's teacher?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to follow along.
This is Ryan Neal's teacher and also Taiga Urishibata's teacher. And later on, I'm going to discuss something about balance, but that you can use balance in a composition or balance in a tree. And Ryan uses a lot of balance in a composition, and Taiga uses a lot of balance in a tree. And are two different things, but it's not wrong, and it's interesting to do and to see those visions as well. Someone to go let a tree tip over to the ultimate, but they even create balance in an interesting way, and that's the story that person wants to tell. As long as the composition is right, it's good. Okay. So when knowing this, I want to decide what my front of this beautiful California juniper is. So what are the most important things of choosing a front? Nibari, yes, indeed. So Nibari is the first thing you're going to look for, okay? Are there certain species or styles you don't have to look for in Nibari that well? Yes. So, for instance, Nibari or root spread is very important for deciduous trees and also for some styles or some things. But like if you cannot find it in a very beautiful pine or a very beautiful juniper, it's not a big deal or it's not a big problem. Also, if you have a bunjing tree, literati kind of tree, or a cascade tree, it's also not a big deal or a big problem. So, but Nibari is one of the most important things. What's next? That's something you can do yourself. So a tree, that's something that would be an extra thing. So much more taper or conicity, yes. Oh, my writing is really bad, sorry. Taper. What else? Movement, very important. What else? That's normally your nearby, so that's the widest part, but something else. Not branch coming at you, but branch placement is very important. Okay. And then these are the most important things, and balance also, but that's something you can still create afterwards. No. Balance you can create in a tree or in a composition. So movement is a certain specific thing in a trunk. So for instance, if you see this is movement, but this doesn't have to mean that that the tree is in balance. Okay, even if you lift the tree, doesn't mean that the tree is in balance, but you can use things to make the tree go into balance or to create balance. Okay, so with these things, you can choose the front. Then there are other things, extra things, you can decide what the front will be. What will that be? Someone already told it a little bit later. A very interesting branch that can have some beautiful movement. So, branch with character. You write that in a good way? Okay. What else? What does that tree have? Especially at the base. Deadwood, yeah. And for some species, like something that has cork, for example, a pine. A pine that has cork, so the bark, okay. So these are all extra things that can decide or consider to choose an interesting front. If we have this tree, and I want you all to decide the front together. It's maybe interesting because I don't have any clue. No, just kidding. What would the front be? Just tell me, just I'll stop. Here? Someone here? Other side? And why? Why the other side? Yes. So here we have a very beautiful movement. We have a very good Nibari, very beautiful deadwood. We see live veins at the front as well, what's also quite important. So if we decided to have a front, what are the next steps that we need to do? Also, you need to make some lines into the deadwood, so you will create depth inside of it. It's very important so that your deadwood will not be too smooth. At some places you can make it smooth because not everywhere on a tree will tear off. And also try to avoid that you have, like, if you take a piece off in the middle, that these two sides are equal. So shorten one or shorten the other. And try to create some movement in it. Okay. So now this rests a little bit, so I'm going to bend it a little bit more. Because actually I want my apex to become more or less here and to the back a little bit. I always wait to hear for a cracking sound and then I know that I need to stop. You always have one small crack and then you know you need to stop. So, or that's how it in Europe goes. So I don't know. I don't know for this one. I think it can handle quite a bit. No? Okay, going to wait again. So for this small tree, when I'm going to work on it, I want to bend this branch to this side, okay? Because I want this to become my first branch. And when I have my first branch, I'm going to bend it to this side, okay? And down. If I bend it down, from what side will I wire it? From above or from beneath? From above, because I want to have tension. Tension is our friend and enemy. So if I go too far, it snaps. But also because of tension, it's possible that you can wire or branch into the right direction. If this branch needs to go to that direction, do you need to wire it from this side or the other side? The other side, okay. And while you're wiring it, you're going to already move it a little bit to the front, okay? Let me have a look. Also, what size do you think it should be? We have other metrics, so for me it's difficult now to, but if you use aluminum, it would be 1/3 of the size of the branch. And if you use copper, it's 1/4, you know? Hmm? Yeah, the big one. Yeah, we're going to use the biggest 4, I guess, no? or 6. 6 is possible. No problem. It was a question for the people. I'm going to add some raffia to be sure as well. So if you want to apply the raffia, you need to bend it in the same way as well, or put it around in the same way, okay? Everybody already applied raffia before? If people want to watch, just come and watch. That's no problem for me. I rather want to have a very interesting interactive demonstration than. So if people have questions about trees, something, just let me know.
Yannick, did you say that you apply the raffia the direction you're going to apply the wire?
Yes, in the same direction. So that means that I want to create tension on this side, and because the raffia is now wet, but it will dry and it will tighten more, so it will be as a cast. So small cracks may appear when you try to bend it, but it actually saves your branch from snapping, okay? So that means I need to bend it to this direction. And it needs to, very important with raffia is that it needs to overlap each other. So you can't have any holes or openings into the raffia. Maybe it's also interesting for people to see how I can apply the next one on this. So you have to press it very tightly, very carefully on the tree. Okay, so now I'm going to put my next one. Can someone hold this for a while? Okay, super. I just apply it like this. I roll the other one behind it. So it's, see, it's just stuck together here. Maybe they can see it on the screen. And I can apply it once more. So they teach us in Japan to work as clean as possible because most of the trees, they need to be sold or get sold. And it's important to wire as less as possible. So your technique has to be done properly. If you don't do it properly, it's not a good thing. Also, wiring is very important. So if someone wires beautiful, it's also possible to make your styling more beautiful.
I wonder if you have a tree that compares to this where you live.
To this one?
Yes, similar to this.
Like in styling or in how it looks, or like
Environmentally growing in nature, similar juniper that's in the mountains, or
I would say oxycitrus a little bit, but they have small spiky needles, not coarse needles, but the trunk and the deadwood looks a bit like that. It's not really completely a juniper. It's difficult to tell, but the bark resembles a bit like it and the deadwood. Maybe commonis also a little bit, but they also have spiky needles. Sabina doesn't look like this because the bark is different, the foliage is different. more closer together, like Itogawa, but very fluffy. So the foliage is like this. So you need to grow it quite straight and beautiful. So you need to extend the growth and cut it back and remove all the fluffy, ugly foliage, and then let it grow out and then cut it back again to create more beautiful foliage clouds. So I rather graft Sabina Juniper than to work with it, actually. But it's taste sometimes. I have customers who want to keep the species as a Sabina, so I just listen to them and I will do the work what's necessary. But for my own collection, I think Itogawa is more beautiful, and it also raises the value of the tree, actually. But like this, we don't, like, from what I've seen, we don't have junipers like Rocky Mountain juniper or California juniper or Utah juniper. We have a few Sabinas that have incredible movement, but different. It's hard to say how. But yeah. Also, sometimes we have to work with big wire, and it's not always easy to apply them, especially with copper wire. It's annealed to get it softer, but through the vibration in your car, and sometimes to leave it too long in your garage or something, it gets too hard. So if you, it's like it's not called a jigsaw, but how is it called? A seesaw. If you use your pliers to help you, it's easier applicable. Also, wire 45 degrees or a little bit longer. Maybe it's more easy for you to see if I do it like this. So when I bend, I also try to bend it like that. So I don't always bend like this, but I try to create movement into it and bend it like that. And also use my thumbs and my hands to use it as a, how do you have to say it? As a kind of a support, but also to feel how far it can go. So that's why you have your wire on as well. So if the wire is here on that spot, you bend it so you can create movement, and it will not snap because the wire holds it. So what? Normally someone in the audience always has a branch and snaps something. So so if you see, we have this branch over here, but it needs to come a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a guy wire to bring it more to here, okay? What do you guys already think from the design until now or from the idea? Bad, ugly, not good?
Yannick, I have a question about
Mm-hmm.
that long straight piece in the trunk, in the center.
This
Yeah.
one?
No, the main trunk.
This here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about that? I mean,
There's nothing much to change about, but we have a branch here and can maybe put some foliage in front of it. It's what you say. If this tree would be 3/3, then this would be our tashagari, where you have your root base and your first branch, okay? And then this would the part be that it would be hidden, but not everywhere. So you can hide a little bit,
Yeah.
okay? Or with this one, we're going to bring this also a little bit more down here as well. So we can hide a piece and we can show off the most interesting movement of the tree. So there's a branch where we created, it already had some nice movement. So it goes up and down and left and right. So for example, if this would be a tree with a branch with a lot of movement, how could I make this branch shorter, for example? If this would be a branch, okay? How can I make this branch shorter? Now it's straight. Movement, yeah, left, right, okay. Okay, but also movement up and down like that. If I would create a pigtail, for example, it's even half shorter than it normally is, but it looks ugly, okay? If you stretch it out a little bit, you have a more natural movement, okay? And it's still shorter. Yes. Okay. Then another thing, taper is very important, and I already said that. Did I say it about the curves? Not really, or did I say it? Did I tell about Moyogi and the curves to create taper? I don't think so. Okay. So then the other thing, I use basic guidelines to simplify things, also with styling a tree. So I use the Miyogi style or informal upright for any of my designs as a guideline. If my movement would be, if this would be a Yamadori tree and my movement would be very strong to that side, and every informal upright has an outside curve, right? If my outside curve would be there, then my movement would go strong back as well. Where would my next curve be? Where's my next curve? Halfway. So half of this one, okay? So more or less here. So it would look like that. Where would my next curve be? Halfway of this one or this one? This one, okay. Super. And then we have our apex, and our apex is always in the middle of our root spread, okay? If we follow the traditional guidelines. So if we have created balance into the tree also. If this would be the thickness of my thumb, what would the thickness of this be? Half, okay? Half, okay? And that's how we create taper, so conicity, okay? Then in every outside corner, we have a branch. So we would have a branch here, a branch there, a branch there, okay? If I would be a trunk and this would be a branch, would it be the same? Yes or no? If I would be a trunk, I'm a tree, and this is my Miyogi tree is the branch. Would it be the same? No? What? It's no tree anymore. It's now a branch. Would it be the same? Why not? It has taper. It would be the same because you have a primary branch, okay? And it goes like this. So it's more or less like the Miyogi style tree. In every outside corner you have a branch, okay? So here's an outside corner. It follows the movement, it goes out. Is here an outside corner? Yeah, it follows the movement and goes out. And I follow the rule of 2, 2, 2. Why would I do that? Do I already have enough ramification? Do I want to create more ramification on this? Yeah, okay. So here's an outside corner going out. Here's an outside corner like that. Here as well. Here as well. And then we can do it here as well. Here as well. Here as well. Here, 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 here as well. Okay. So you have your primary branch that creates taper. So that will be the half the size of that one and also in thickness. And this is your foliage cloud. Okay. If you see it from up top, the space between this and this is the same, but also the space between this should be the same, more or less, if you fan everything out. But also the space between this should be more or less the same. And that's how you create a beautiful foliage cloud. Okay. Then why wouldn't I put a branch here? What? Not only that, what? For that reason, sometimes you have to use the branch in an inside band because you don't have another option. Or you can graft maybe. But why wouldn't I put a branch here? For reverse taper, because this, because you have 3 branches here, will become a knot. And then you have a problem. You see, I was in LA and I saw a lot of Niwaki trees, and they were all the time clip back, clip back, clip back. And you saw that the branches were thin, and then they had this massive bulb on it. Okay. So there's for the reason why you design it like that, because a show-in will the show-in stay a show-in? Will the show-in stay a show-in, or will the show-in become a shoe-in? Yes or no? It will get bigger. So a mid-sized tree will always be a mid-sized tree because of the size, but a show-in will turn into a shoe-in because it will get too big. Okay. But the thing is, the show-in will grow out, but your branches will grow out as well. So the thing is, to make trees healthy, they need to grow. But we also need to create ramifications. So one day you need to say, I'm going to cut it back here because this has grown up to here. Okay. And then with one wire, you can create, if you cut it back with one wire, you can recreate that foliage cloud again like that. Okay. So it's to make your life more easy in a certain way. Also, do we create flat foliage clouds? Normally when we design a tree, from the side, it looks like that, right? We create a hand. How do we create volume? You will get new growth actually, but the growth on top you leave. So if you have a deciduous tree, it will grow out like this, and you need to cut it back here until 1 or 2 internoids, and then you create a beautiful foliage cloud. But in a certain time, they will get too big, and then you can cut them back a little bit more, and a new sleeping bud is there, and you can let one grow out again. Okay. So if this branch is in the best position, I'm going to cut it back until alternating branches. So left, right, left, right, left, right. And then I will fan them out, okay? So this branch is in the right position, but if you see here I have one beautiful branch here, and here, this one is dead anyway, so, but here you see them. Here are two branches at the same point. So one I'm going to remove, and I'm going to keep the branch with the most beautiful ramification. Is already dead. So then here at the other side, we have another branch and a few branches on the same side. You can come all up front if you want to see, but they need to be alternating. I have one here, so the next one is here. The next one will be there. So that means the one with the most foliage I will keep, and this doesn't have a lot of foliage, so that one I can cut. And then that means that here it splits into two again. So these I can keep as well, okay? Here I also have two on the same side. So this one and this one. So this one I'm going to cut, because from this one I can make a beautiful foliage cloud. And then I have this beautiful one, which will create depth, okay? Why should I use this branch? Because you need to have a back branch. How many branches do we have? How many branches do we minimal need in a bonsai design? 3? Seriously? Which one? What? Which ones? Huh? Yes, but I want to find more specific names. Which ones is, huh? First branch, yes. Next. If we have this one, I need to create balance. Oh, I'm going to do that. Which one? Anybody? Huh? I need to find a specific word for it. It gives balance, so it's counterbalance branch, okay? Okay. Next one. Back branch, because we need depth, yes. And the last one, apex. And in some cases, a fifth. What? No, that's that. Front branch. Okay. So that are the main things. If I design a tree, I would like to also create my tree with alternating branches. So sometimes you see people style trees and it looks like this. Does this look natural? It looks like a stairway to heaven or something, you know? So what I mostly do is when I design my first branch, and it looks like this, I have one foliage cloud here, one here, and one here sometimes, okay? So they alternate as well. And my first foliage clouds needs to be the the longest, biggest, okay? So that means if you go higher, your foliage clouds needs to be more defined. The open spaces need to be smaller, and the foliage clouds need to be smaller as well. Okay. Open spaces is very important with a tree.
I have a question. Some styles, the primary branch is actually not the first branch. Is there a name for that style?
You mean that the first branch isn't the most important branch?
Yeah, it's not the longest or the most prominent branch.
Yeah. It doesn't have the character. I don't know the name in Japanese actually.
Oh,
But it exists. It's Sashi Eda? No.
I don't know. I was just wondering if there was a term, but I know
There is a term for it.
I've seen
Sometimes you have, for instance, Kobayashi has a beautiful Satsuki. That's like this. And here you have the foliage cloud like that. And he has a very beautiful branch that goes like this. And the foliage is on top of that. So there's a specific word for it, but I forgot. Maybe Peter knows. Peter, do you know?
Well, here.
Okay, that primary branch is called the Sashi Eda.
What
Sashi Eda
is the first branch?
is the primary branch you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have sometimes branches that give the character to the tree that are higher, but I forgot the name for it. So sometimes you have to think about that many names that you forget. So what I'm doing now is I'm cleaning the junctions, and I also remove branches that are growing down and even foliage that are growing down. So I'm designing this tree at the moment, but would this tree be a tree that's developed as a tree that's imbalanced himself, or that it should be in a position that would be imbalanced? Because I always think the tree will decide what you need to do with something, okay? And there are a lot of different schools. For example, my master was Kunio Kobayashi. He had a tree that he styled with a primary branch going that direction, but also he styled a tree with the apex going into that direction also. For example, if you have a traditional slanting style, traditional slanting style goes to that way, okay? Where will the first branch be? That side? Sure? Yeah, definitely. So the tree goes to that way and the first branch goes to that way, but is the branch very low or quite high? What, low? Yeah. So the first branch goes to that. And the other ones follow the same movement like that, more or less, okay? On the other side, would these branches be tall and also grow that low as well? Yes or no? No? Okay. No, indeed. They would grow much shorter and more horizontally, like this, okay? This is traditional Japanese style. How would Masahiko Kimura shape that tree? He would do something different. Anybody know? He would style it with the branch at that direction. This is already for balance. This tree is perfect in balance. But how would he style it with the branch going into that direction? Does anybody know? No? So the first branch is here. Okay. How do we create balance? By using open spaces. So that means that you would create the apex more or less here, and you would use a lot of weight at the counterbalance. So that would look like this more or less. Okay. And then sometimes they use a more heavy pot. For example, we have a picture of Taiga Urishibata. You all know Ryan Neal? No? Okay. So he was a student of Masahiko Kimura. Okay. And Taiga Urishibata was the senpai of Ryan Neal. And I want to show that they were at the same master, but they even style different or in a different way. And there's no right or wrong as long as the technique is done properly. So what I mean is, does this, yeah, that's the right one. Does this tree feel in balance? It feels peaceful, right? Yeah. Why is that? Why is this tree in balance? No, in balance. This tree is very much in balance. Why would this, does everybody see it? Or do I need to, Doug? What? That's not why it is. The apex is the middle of the root spread, okay? And he styled it in a way that you have your first branch, counterbalance branch, back branches, and the tree is perfect in balance because it doesn't look like it's going to trip or fall or, you know? So he uses a technique that the tree itself is in balance. We have another picture of Ryan Neal who uses a tree that tips over. So this one is another example. How do you create balance in this tree, or how is balance created into this composition? What? This is deadwood here. Huh? Maybe. If you have a diagonal line, if you pull a diagonal line here, this is all living part. And it's like half and half, but this would be dead. So he creates balance by using that and alive. But also, if this pot would be much smaller, it would look like, because of the heavy deadwood, that it would tip over. So he uses a bigger pot that it looks like the tree is very much in balance. Ryan Neal has other styles, or not other styles, but other trees where the trees go a lot that way. And my master Kunio Kobayashi would do the same, and he would use a bigger pot to create balance in the design. So these are, for myself, interesting designs or things to know about how someone creates a tree and what story he wants to tell. And there's no right or there's no wrong. For example, foliage cloud development. You have Bjorn Bjorholm, the next one, who was a student of Fujikawa. We need to. So this is a tree of Fujikawa. How do the foliage cloud look? Bjorn changed his styling after his master as well. This is a very dynamic tree, and the technique is done very good, very properly, but how does it look? Does anyone know? What? It has open spaces, but the thing is the tree is very dynamic and the foliage cloud are very straight, so they're quite static. So what you can see, and if you see the development of Bjorn Bjorholm, Fujikawa was his master, so he had to follow the rules of how he shapes the tree. And the foliage clouds look like this, okay, like triangular shapes. You see that in this tree. And when Bjorn Bjorholm went back to the States, he could do whatever he wanted. So he changed into, if he would style this tree now, he would change his foliage cloud into this to make it more dynamic. Because that looks very static, but it's the story that his master wants to tell about the tree. Okay? You have, in Europe, you have Walter Paul, who makes natural trees, and he makes deciduous trees look natural, and that's his style. There's no wrong or right. We have space enough for new things, you know, or new things. It's not really new because you have Shimizu-san in Japan, who creates very beautiful deciduous trees. He waters them 7 to 9 times a day to create very beautiful root spread, but the branches grow like this. So not like typical bonsai style, okay? So this is, from my opinion, very interesting to see. And also, sometimes in Kukufu, you see trees where you see the branch structure very good. And if you look at that, it's like the tree is close to you. So you want to tell a story that the tree is near you. Or sometimes you see a branch structure where you only see the foliage, but you don't see the branches that well. So that means that you're maybe on a mountain and looking on top of the tree. So everything depends what story you want to tell, okay? So this one, here I have 3 branches coming from the same spot. Can you see it? Not really. Okay. How could I solve this problem? By removing one. And it splits into 2 here and it gets taper, so it's better to remove the middle one. This one as well. And then I can create my foliage cloud. So, and then I want my branch to become alternating as well. So I have this one, then this one, and then this one. So I can better remove that one as well. So it's better to create a more beautiful open branch structure. And the rest you can still build afterwards, okay? What I always do is I wire until the end. Because if I have my primary branch, I also have this wire on top here, so I can anchor it.
All right. Isn't he doing a great job? He's going to keep working because obviously there's a lot to do. We're going to have our business meeting and then show and tell.
So we have bent this one in the right position, and I already finished styling this part here. So if you can see, this is the smaller or the daughter, and this will become the mother. So what we will do is I will, with a guy wire, I'll attach that one to this gin or to this gin, whatever is easiest. And I want to thank Fong, who helped me with cleaning the tree a little bit. So if you can see, we compress this so that the tree will be more compact, because that's something interesting or something what we need to do as well. So the thing what we will be doing now is I will be bending this branch to create balance into this composition of tree. And this one, we will try to bend a little bit more to the front. Here we have a beautiful back branch which will be visible here to show this movement. This one we're going to bend a little bit more down as well. So I will be starting with that. And afterwards, I'm going to show you how we can create a beautiful foliage cloud that's quite clean like this, because you need to spread everything open. That's good. One more time. Okay.
Am I the only one that likes foliage clouds? I love that. That just is so
It's
cool.
good. Yes, yes, yes.
Foliage cloud sounds nicer
Okay.
than pads.
Can make it loose, this one. Okay. Yes. This one I don't need. I think that would. No. Okay, super. So I'm going to start wiring this one together with this one and these two together. Here we have a branch that has a lot of character, but not if we would bend it into this way, because I think it will be more beautiful if we create deadwood over here, because we have enough branches that we can bend down to create a more beautiful tree. So that one we will cut. So there were a few people that came here who had a few interesting questions about deadwood and stuff like that, and maybe there's something I can tell about that as well if you people are interested about. So he showed me an example of this one. This piece of deadwood looks a little bit like what I mean to be a spear point, so like a pointy gin, and it's a little bit flat. So it's more interesting when you make it a little bit more shattered. And I followed deadwood classes with Andres Bicoca, and he's an Argentinian guy who makes deadwood with chisels, and afterwards he starts to sandblast it. So that's very interesting. So if you can, on a computer, find Andres Bicoca, maybe that's interesting to show. And then we can see how if someone makes beautiful deadwood work, he goes 10 steps beyond. And if you then sandblast it, it's even 10 times better. So, and they do it with silicate or quartz sand. The only thing is with silicate, do you know silicate sand? Silicate, yeah. Silicate is sharper, so you will have much more beautiful deadwood, and it will look much more sharper. When you do it with quartz sand, it will look more blunt, the character in between it. So I want to create a foliage cloud here to make a picture frame around this movement, so it will look more interesting. And to create more depth into the tree. And with this one, we're going to do more or less the same, but it's going to be a little bit higher. No problem. Yes, you can show a piece of deadwood before and after. So people can see the difference between sandblasted and there was also an interesting technique behind it, because when you have a carving tool, you have a flat one. You only use the flat one and you use some dentist tools. But if you have the flat one, it looks like this. And how do you go into the wood with the hammer? Normally with this side, no? Normally with this side, you go into the wood and you go like that, okay? He uses it different. So he uses this side. So it follows the vein. And with if you use the straight part, it goes through the vein. If you use it different, like this part, so like if here's the vein, and here you have the wood characteristics, then he uses it like that, and it follows the vein. That's quite an interesting technique. Can you find it? Okay. So if you ever have him here, very interesting, but you need a Spanish translator. So
I learned a curious fact about Yannick. He speaks 4 languages:
yes,
French, Dutch,
French, Dutch, German.
German, and English. It puts most of us to shame, huh?
What?
You put most of us to shame. The majority of us Americans have 1 language.
Yes, but
And we don't count spelling, right?
everybody can speak that language, so you don't need to, but we have to sometimes. And at start, I hated French. I wasn't very good at it at school until I had to use it for bonsai, for demonstrations and stuff like that. So, and English I learned because of The Simpsons. So, when I was young, 4 years old, I started to learn English already because of that. So cartoons did a good thing anyway. So someone also asked the question about how long the wire should be attached to the tree. If you have ingrowth of your wire into the wood and onto the vein, it means that ingrowth is fixation. So if you have a light ingrowth, it's no problem. But you have to cut it out on time. And if there would be a difference between guy wire and wiring around, coiling wire around your branches, there's a difference because this one needs to stay longer. Or if I add some deadwood here, the vein starts to make new cambium, and also the line of that tree will dry in. So where I removed it, the wood will dry in, and this one doesn't need to stay that long. So if I have a smaller tree and I want to bend it, I bend it with a guy wire down, 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 and compress it a little bit more. If I would add some deadwood into the trunk, when it dries in, your branches stay in place or is fixated much easier. So what I do to create foliage clouds is I follow the line of the branch, okay? And sometimes branches go like this. And what I do is I first change my branch from position until I have it like this. And then you already have a foliage cloud. You only need to plug the foliage here. So for example, if you see this one already has a beautiful line. So I only need to, with wire, I only need to do this. And I need to remove the foliage that's growing down here as well, here as well. And then I need to shorten this a little bit. And then I created a beautiful foliage cloud already. And if I add all these foliage clouds together, I create a much bigger one. And then I have the primary branch line, and I follow the branches, follow that line, and I let them grow out. Everything needs to grow out into the light. So scissor. Yes, here. Also, for here, for example, I can show you a technique. How I can use less wire by wiring two branches. So if I'm calling this one, I have two branches here, okay? I can remove the foliage that grows down like this, okay? This one is a little bit longer, so I'm going to cut back until a growing bud, what's very important. And I'm calling that way, so should I wire this one or this one? That one? Why? This one? Yes, my coil goes that way. So with one wire, I can wire both. Like this. I make a little twist in it, and I supported that one as well. So I made you just use less wire, okay? So it's cheaper. And then you can do it like that, and you have a beautiful foliage cloud out of that one, with using minimal of wire. So also, can you cross wires? Yes or no? Yes, of course. As the technique is done properly, it's allowed to cross wires. Even in Japan, they cross wires. So sometimes you see, if you're giving a demonstration, people look like, oh, you crossed wire. So it's no problem.
It seems to me when a pro works and wires a tree that the foliage moves out of the way. Then that what it looks like? They just do it. And when I do it, they jump in the way.
Yes. Actually, we're magicians, so
Well, I believe that.
I'm joking. It's like the airbender. So this branch needs to come more to the front, and this one as well. So this one, I'm going to bend into that direction.
Derek found a sample of before and after. Do you want him to share it?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, this is the mugo pine that Anders Bikoka worked on. This is after, and this is only done by hand tools. You even have details in it. He also uses from Alibaba. He uses dentist tools that he modified a little bit. You can do the next one. Look. And because of the sandblasting, and you see the spot, that it's shredded, it makes it much more beautiful. As I told you, someone who makes good deadwood, he makes it 10 times better. And if you afterwards sandblast it, it's even more incredible. So I think would be cool technique to use with the California junipers and with the Utah junipers. So.
All right. So
It's
creating
almost
a
time.
masterpiece takes time. So what's going to happen is this lucky winner is going to be revealed, but Yannick's going to
Yeah.
we're going to take the tree home. He's going to finish it tonight and then make arrangements with Renee to get it. You can come and get it at my house. So, but you don't want to rush it. You want it done right. So let's see. Yannick, where's the ticket?
The ticket is here.
Oh, it's red.
Yeah.
You want to name it?
PAT.
Yeah.